You know, I've got to be honest. Doing these race reviews is a bit different between doing rallying and doing F1. Not just because the rallying is competitive action over the 3 days, the 300 kilometers spread out, but also because I think it has a bit more of a tendency to be unpredictable. So let's talk about the Styrian Grand Prix, and let's start off with just, well, what do I say? Do I talk about how Leclair ended up with a first lap collision, taking out Gasly, and then we ended up going back to P7? That was a nice kind of recovery by him. That was. Sainz ended up going up the order as well. Or do we talk about the fact that, like, for F1 for the past few years, the top four are on their own lap compared to everybody else? It just so happens that Red Bull's winning more often now. Because at the end of the day, like, I love F1, and it's got a lot of brilliant competition in it, but we could see where this result was going from very early on. Since Perez had the poor stop, but by the way, I'm going to talk about that in a second, it was basically set in stone that this was going to be the top four for Verstappen, from Hamilton, from Bottas, from Perez. It was almost predictable. But let's talk about that Perez stop, because F1's bringing in these new rules for pit stop times, and they're going to be coming in Hungary. And I think Perez's slow stop is an example of why we need something like that, because that rear left was being dropped, was being put on as the car was being dropped. There's no way that the mechanics could have seen that it was good before the car was already rolling. And if a hand had been connected properly, Perez's wheel would have been disconnected and could have been raced over. I don't know. There's a lot going on with F1 at the moment, and I'm not sure what the best way to fix it is, because yes, we've got a bit of a title battle on right now, but Red Bull does have the edge from Mercedes, not necessarily strategically, but on a lot of the tracks this season, and I was talking to a couple of people about this. I think over the majority of the tracks, Red Bull are going to have the faster car. It just depends on how it comes down over the weekend. Like, say, next weekend, if Mercedes ended up with the grid as it was in qualifying before Bottas' penalty, I wouldn't rule out a Mercedes win. I think it'd be more likely to be Bottas and Hamilton, unless they try to mess around with the orders. But I have a feeling that Hamilton would probably come behind Bottas in like a 1-2 or something. But this is the way the F1 always is. There's always going to be a better team, and they're always going to be trying to make it more equal. I mean, that's how we've had a situation we have this year, because the floors got cut out, which meant the Mercedes went backwards. And now we're seeing the Flexiwing rule, and we're seeing the pit stop rule. Both of them arguably are going to be hampering Red Bull. It's always about trying to peg back the leaders, not about trying to help everyone else catch up. And I'm always one for a rule that works in like favour of safety and all these kinds of checks and measures, because at the end of the day, that should be something that we look at. But why not just put in harsher sanctions for people to get it wrong? I don't know. These are discussions that are way above my pay grade. It was well done by Verstappen, but he didn't really have to do much. He just ran off into the distance and was never seen again. Didn't really have to fend off Lewis Hamilton, because at the end of the day, the Red Bull was faster around the Red Bull ring, and has been, I think, since around 2016. And yeah, sure, last season we had a bit of a reprieve from that, but that's because Verstappen and Albon were out in the first race, and the wet weather masterclass by Lewis Hamilton for the Styrian Grand Prix last year saw them go off into the distance. But I don't know. Can't wait to see what next year does, though. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye for now.